The Planning and Zoning Commission is an independent advisory body of the City of Ames City Council. The Planning and Zoning Commission members are volunteers of the community and not part of the city administration. The Planning and Zoning Commission is supported by staff from the city's planning division. The commission is responsible for recommendations on matters involving subdivisions, annexations, master plans, and major site development plans, amendments to the zoning ordinance, and comprehensive plan amendments. We make our recommendations based on city codes, the facts presented, and input from the public. As an advisory commission, we welcome all comments regarding the proposed item. Please direct your input to the commission. If the proceedings become lengthy, we may ask that comments be focused on new information not previously presented. You may speak only once on an agenda item. If you wish to speak, please fill out a speaker information card and present it to the recording secretary. We ask that you come to the microphone to speak so that all comments may be recorded. The order of the proceeding for each item on the agenda will be as follows. The city staff will present the staff report regarding the agenda item. Commission members will have an opportunity to ask questions of city staff. The applicant will be invited to make a statement regarding the request. Commission members will have an opportunity to ask questions of the applicant. Members of the audience will be invited to come forward to offer comments and questions. Once public comment is closed, city staff and the applicant will have an opportunity for concluding remarks. The commission will discuss the application based on all presentations and any comments given and come to a recommendation for city council. The discussion may include further questions of city staff and the applicant for clarification. And with that, we will move into the first item on the agenda, the introduction of commission members.
Julie Winter.
Mike Clayton.
Mike Sullivan.
John Emery.
Mike LaPetra.
Matthew Voss.
Thank you. And with that, I'll take a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. And then we've got the approval of the minutes. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from May 17th, 2023.
So move.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. All right, now we'll open the public forum. Anyone would like to speak an item that's not on the agenda, feel free to step forward. And hearing none, we'll move on to agenda item 6, a public hearing on the preliminary plat for North Sunset Ridge, 798 North 500th Avenue.
Kelly, what am I doing wrong on this? I have to trying to put this up there. I did send to both projectors. I'll get started. You may, maybe the projector's not on. I can use the overhead. This, oh, still goes through there? This property you may recognize, it's the property you saw a month ago when the master plan was amended. It is 28.57 acres. And tonight, the request before you is to approve a preliminary plat for this residential acreage. There's a total of 63 lots included, as well as an outlot for a portion that will be future development. The development's located at 798 North 500th Avenue. It's immediately north of the existing Sunset Ridge development. The master plan indicates, the amended master plan indicates there's a component of single family attached units, which are townhomes within the development on the north side of the site. And it also allows no more than 80 units. So this approval is for 63 lots. 47 of those lots would be single family detached homes. 16 would be single family attached homes or townhomes. There'll be 4 lots for open space and stormwater. One of those lots has also been identified as common open space for passive recreation. And Outlot XX, which is on the west, includes 3.32 acres reserved for future development. The density calculation is 5.05 units per acre, which meets the minimum, which is 3.75 units per acre required under the FSRL zoning. The proposed development extends Wilder and Elston Avenues northward into the development, and then Wilder extends all the way to the north property line. And Wilder is designated as a residential collector street, so it also includes shared use path, and it's got a slightly wider right-of-way as well. The proposed Green Street bisects this site. Oh, I didn't notice that we had moved on. So there's the master plan. Sorry about that. Let's get up. Okay. So the street here, Green Avenue, is the east-west it bisects the site, and it ends in cul-de-sac on the east. Generally, we discourage cul-de-sacs, but in this case, there was no way really to connect this back in. There was no place to connect it back into Sunset Ridge, and it does fit within the requirements of the subdivision code for the maximum length. So it doesn't exceed any of the requirements of the subdivision code. It's also stubbed here at the end. And as mentioned, Outlot XX is for future development. It's the idea that Green Avenue will continue and go up north and at some point connect back to North 500th over here, which is labeled here as Y Avenue. Street trees, you will notice in the plans that there are street trees shown, but the actual coordination and location of the street trees occurs with the final improvement plans related to the streetlights, fire hydrants, and in the case of single family attached, including the driveways as a condition of final plat approval. So they're anticipated within the preliminary plat, but the final plat is where the location is defined. A 5-foot sidewalk will be constructed on both sides of all internal streets, with the exception of Wilder, which will have the 8-foot shared use path on the west side continuing, which is also down here. So the same width will continue up through the subdivision to the north property line. There is an area of floodplain over here in Outlot D, but all of the residential lots are located outside of flood-prone areas. The stormwater will, as mentioned, the 4 outlots, A, which is A is down here, B, C, and D all have stormwater conveyance over the property. But generally, the stormwater will go from west to east and collect in this area, which is a stormwater pond. Then it will be conveyed through to Clear Creek, which is over here. The water has to not exceed the standards that exist before development. Public Works has reviewed the stormwater management plan, and it does conform to the city standards. A signed copy will be required before this goes to the city council. Sanitary sewer will serve the site. with a 12-inch trunk line that's being extended from the main. It's going from this property. I could show you better further down. The stormwater, this portion of property actually is in the county, but is also owned by Hunsicker. Stormwater mains being installed in this area and will continue through an easement here into Green Street and continue along Green Street. It's a 12-inch main, which is upsized from what's normally required. Normally it's 8 inches, but it's being upscaled to promote, to serve future development to the west. And so that was a condition and an agreement between the city and the developer in a contract rezoning agreement where the developer paid a portion of the stormwater and the city also paid a portion. The city covered the part that exceeded what would normally be required. So notice was mailed to the property owners and haven't heard from anyone. The staff does find that the preliminary plat is consistent with the amended contract rezoning agreement and the amended master plan, the zoning ordinance, the subdivision ordinance standards, and Ames Plan 2040. The lot design and layout, as well as utility connections and stormwater design, have been reviewed by staff and have been found to meet city standards. Utilities including city water, sanitary sewer, Ames Electric, and Consumers Energy will be extended into the subdivision. Sidewalks will be constructed along both sides of all streets, with the exception of Wilder, which has the shared use path on the west side. And therefore, it's the recommendation of the Planning and Housing Department that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend to the City Council approval of Alternative 1 with the identified conditions. And the conditions as identified on page 3 include final approval of the stormwater management plan by Public Works prior to the City Council approval of the preliminary plat. The exact location of the sidewalk connection north to the future park is still to be determined. If the sidewalk is not able to connect to the park, then it will need to extend throughout Lot C to the west and connect with the Wilder Avenue sidewalk trail. And C, accommodation and coordination of street trees with final improvement plans related to streetlights, fire hydrants, and single-family attached unit driveways will be required at the time of final plat. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Where's Outlot A at?
Outlot A is that sliver that's to the south.
Okay.
You can see that it's graded for drainage.
Right. And then said if they can't connect to the park, then they'll go through that shared use path.
What they will do is instead of going
Right.
north to connect to the park, they will need to wrap the trail back to this sidewalk here.
And extend it. I mean, make it wider.
They won't make this sidewalk wider, but they possibly, I don't know if there would be a street crossing or not, but they have to at least extend it back to this sidewalk, which would become a connection to the park. So right now, the plans for the park are still to be determined, and it's unclear if a location, an entrance for the public at this point would be appropriate or not for the park design. So that's why we say to be determined.
The upsized sanitary trunk that's going through, what additional development, I guess, was incorporated in that calculation, I guess, for upsizing that?
Well, it goes all the way to the North 500th. And eventually there'll be some connection and looping, I think, of the stormwater line for better balancing. But there's anticipated development into Boone County at some point in time.
So it's based on Plan 2040, where we show roughly a half a mile to 3/4 of a mile into Boone County from this point north of Lincoln Way, able to be developed. So it's designed to be able to serve that area.
And then I just noticed in, I don't know, in the plat versus the brief, like streets and avenue, like kind of being interchanged, like is that supposed to be one or the other, like Green Street, Green Avenue, Wilder Street, Wilder Avenue, or is that just there's not two of those,
It would
right?
be a typo. If it
Okay.
doesn't say Green Street, it's wrong. It should be Green
Okay.
Street and it should be Wilder Avenue. So I may have inadvertently put the wrong
I figured that. I
designation.
just want to make sure.
But thank you for noticing that. I'll make sure it's corrected.
Any other questions for staff?
Out of curiosity, for the density calculation, are the outplats not factored into that calculation? Is it just the residential area for the 5.05 units per acre?
So the density calculation is shown on page 02, right here. It shows what's included in that calculation. I'll zoom in. So it's usually the net area that's shown. So it's got the total. So the lot area minus outlots and right-of-way is the number of lots is divided into 12.47 acres to get the 5.05.
Okay, thank you.
A little bit of a misnomer on that table. It says lots per acre. We don't measure lots per acre. We measure units per acre. So they're meaning buildable lots, but that's the same as a unit per acre. So our code requires net density of 3.75 units per acre. So that's minus right-of-ways, minus set aside open spaces that are for other purposes that are not private ownership.
Thank you.
There's no other questions at this time. We'll let the applicant come up and have a statement if they wish.
Evening, Commission. Justin Dodge, Hunsaker Companies, 105 South 16th Street. Really don't have any statement other than I'm here and available for any questions you guys might have. If not, I can sit down. I'm here all night.
I remember maybe the first time this development came for the commission when I was here, there were some questions about the kind of the drainage area on the north side where that outlot A is. Could you remind us maybe what, if anything, has been to address those concerns? I know there are some property owners that had some concerns about that.
Yep. And so we had contacted all the adjacent property owners at that point in time. Obviously, some of the homes on the west side have sold since that point in time, but have kept in contact with the homeowners association and all of those neighbors as well. But we had talked through a couple of different options. One, we needed to collect the stormwater on the back sides of those lots from the original Sunset Ridge, in addition to collecting the stormwater that drains from the backs of the lots in these new lots. And I should probably note, we're going to shift the gear here probably in the public improvement plans to naming it Sunset Ridge North, because it's going to be part of the Sunset Ridge Homeowners Association. We want to streamline, and have Sunset Ridge on the front side of that name. So it's easier for everybody, even though it's a different plat. But had reached out to everybody and said, we need to convey the stormwater somehow. We could either put an easement over the backsides of these lots, or we can have a dedicated outlot. And those neighbors said, we would prefer it's an outlot that's owned by the homeowners association. And we believe that city staff would also be more supportive of that as an outlot rather than an easement on somebody's property. And so we dedicated 20 feet and are grading that as part of this new plat to convey that stormwater.
I'm interested, were there any reasons given why that was preferred over an easement?
We find a lot of times when you have an easement on somebody's property, they end up putting up a fence or putting up other things, and then there's obstructions to stormwater flowage, even though they're not supposed to be obstructions. So we felt that this was the solution to future problems.
Fight later.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
So with that homeowners association, especially those properties that butt up against that, you're going to make it clear that, excuse me, let me reword this. The property that is on the south side of that outlot, is there any easement on their land?
No, they already own their land, and we did not ask for any easements and wouldn't need to, because we could make everything work on this new plat.
Okay, and you're going to convey to them that outlot A exists there. They don't want, I guess, I wouldn't want any kind of circumstance like happens up there, up by the water tower up north. Regency Homes, I think, built them where they were having problems with erosion in the back, and they're worried about.
Yeah, this isn't going to have near the amount of flowage. This
Okay,
is
yes.
a few lots that drain, to some storm sewer, rather than hundreds of acres of farmland that's all conveyed through one channel.
But just as long as I figure it's important that homeowners that back up to that outlot know that it's an outlot, not their property too.
Oh, yeah. Yep. And my latest communication with those homeowners was probably a couple weeks ago.
But the homeowner association will be responsible for the upkeep of those outlots.
Yes.
That's all I got.
Anyone else have questions?
Very good.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
And at this time, we'd invite anyone from the public who would be interested in providing comment. Please step up and fill out a card, and if they'd like to speak, go ahead.
Good evening, Commissioners. The recording secretary does have my card. My name is Grant Olson. I live at 3812 Ontario Street. And when I saw this layout, I took a step back and I thought about maybe things that are coming in the future. And I thought about connectivity and how people are going to move not only in this subdivision, but in the other areas around it. And so what I did was I took the map and I laid out the public areas. As you may know, the City of Ames later this month will be acquiring for a future park here on the north side of the subdivision. And then we have the public streets within the subdivision. And then just here to the east, we have I guess you could call it a reverse J shape of city land here. So theoretically, you could connect from Utah and these other state-named streets. Just thinking about, especially, I come here as the father of a preteen and a teenager, and school's out, they're moving around the neighborhood on their bikes, and I mean, if we have a park here in the future, what available do we have for flow between these two areas? Because if you move alternative one tonight, you essentially create a dead end, and it makes it very, very difficult to have any future use available, because you could connect these two pieces of city property, and that way, if you by chance lived on Utah or Idaho, if you wanted to go to this park, and because of the way the waterway is in this property, my understanding is that most of the features, most of the amenities in this park will be focused here in the south end of the park. And so if you're here on Utah or Idaho, if there was a public path between here and there, that would make it really easy, as opposed to if there's no public path, then people are forced to come out around Delaware, Dakota, Lincoln Way, up Wilder. And so we have the cities in discussions about the climate action plan and how we're going to reduce vehicle miles traveled. And so I really hate to see us create this situation where we can't have any wiggle room, no opportunity to create a public path that a 13-year-old could use to get between neighborhoods. And so that's why I'm here this evening. We have something similar that exists already in Ames. This happens to be adjacent to Moore Memorial Park, and there is a cul-de-sac and a public path that connects the city park and the cul-de-sac. So this concept in a general term already exists here in Ames. So I'm here to ask you as residents to ask the landowner to set aside a future strip so that we could potentially put in a public path so that preteens, teens, middle-aged, older residents would be able to move between this subdivision and the neighborhood to the east. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to make any comments? Seeing none, I will close the public comment period. And any further discussion or questions from the commission?
Yeah, the L-shaped thing is a floodway, isn't it, Kelly? It's on,
Yeah.
Or just to the west of it?
You can kind of see it there. It's faint, real faint.
You're asking about the city property that he just spoke about?
yeah,
Or you're talking about
Right.
where?
that, yeah,
Backs up on
The L-shaped,
on Utah.
land that he's talking about, can't really develop a floodplain, can it?
Yeah, it looks
So
like
it's not about development. You can have trails and you can make crossings work. I mean, we have trails through Munwoods and other places that have floodplains too. So the floodplain itself does not mean you can't have a crossing or a trail.
Okay. But as far as like on Idaho and Utah, those streets have been there long enough. I imagine they may or may not have set aside any land for a future connection to something to the west.
So what
Um,
was represented there, you won't be able to see it on this. It's too faint. The city has a little stub of land that goes up to Utah Drive. So I think that was the motivation
Okay.
for the comment, is that theoretically there's a 5 to 10 foot stub of land up to Utah that could become a sidewalk. Just like think about like the Munwood paths.
Sure.
That's another example too,
Okay.
besides the Moore Memorial example where we do have little sidewalk extensions that go down to trails.
So that'd be a job for the city council to address.
Well, I mean, they're asking, it would be a public trail. We're not asking, we didn't hear them ask for the developer to build anything. They asked for the ability for the city to build a trail at some point in the future.
Because that's city's land.
But we own the land to the east, but as it's noted, we're disconnected at this point in time from any land on the west side of the creek.
But would the city be able to move forward with that trail if, I mean, Outlaw D would basically make a gap in there, that would be a problem at that point based on how it was presented with public comment?
So there's two things. So we own a lot of land. I don't know the name of the subdivision where Utah Drive and all that is. So we also own another parcel to the north, but we're we are blocked going to the west of the creek. So there's a parcel that's about 50 feet wide just to the north of Outlot D that is where the sanitary sewer extension is connecting over to the trunk line. That's in the county still right now. Outlot D itself does not actually extend, I don't think, all the way to the creek. I think that 50-foot outlot wraps Outlot D, which is a offsite parcel. Hunziker owns it from prior annexation issues. But right there where Eloise is tracing, that's the piece of land that actually connects to our land.
And that's all county.
County.
It's in the county
In the
right
county.
now.
By Hunt.
Ultimately, that will be annexed someday because we need it to clean up the full annexation potential of West Ames. But right now, it's in the county. And that east-west segment is where the sanitary sewer has been or is being constructed right now. And then it has a little, again, you can't see it here. There's a very small portion of that county remnant piece that has a little bit of a connection to the hopefully city-owned land to the north.
Okay, so that's
That
where it
goes
could
right through that
potentially
little
step
ravine
away.
right there. Yeah, right there's a very little piece of land.
And then would there be any ability to access the new street, the green street through, is there any easement access through any of those lots as they're laid out right now?
Easement access to what?
Either on anywhere lots like 29 to 33 or so, wouldn't that be where it would come down if they would do
Oh,
there's no ability for it to come down if there would be a future rec trail?
Isn't there an
So we
easement?
haven't vetted as staff the ability for a trail connection to be made. So I can't tell you that, yeah, it could go through Outlot D and connect down to Green Street, or that it could go north straight into the park. I couldn't answer that for you right now. That's not something that staff, it's a little, there's that ravine right there. So that land that's connecting through is not just sloped land that's coming up a hill. It is a ravine. So it's,
Yeah.
we're not doing the sewer. Yeah. So you can see how the sewer line was routed. So we didn't go that far over. Then that sewer line easement is 30 feet wide through there, but there's no path easement. There's no connection over top of that sanitary sewer easement that's proposed with the subdivision.
thinking of the future landowners here in this subdivision, though, wouldn't they probably prefer that if there was going to be a connection over to like the Utah or Idaho, that it'd stay up in that sliver up to the north and go actually into the park, directly into the park, rather than coming down through the neighborhood?
I mean,
That's a good point.
you could speculate that's true. I don't know that we make decisions based on
Yeah.
the preference of a future homeowner that doesn't exist. I mean, if you declare, I mean, if it's known to the buyer of the lot, that's as much disclosure as you can have. I think if you were to come in as a city project, yeah, that would be an interesting conversation with council, whether you try to acquire a right through a sanitary sewer easement, which is easier to do, or go through a natural area.
There's some grading issues up in here too, I think, because this is part of the water conveyance.
Right, if there's a
Yeah, it's
ravine
pretty-
down
Pretty
there,
steep, yeah.
probably a fairly steep.
All that area is pretty steep.
Yeah, that corner's not likely to be conducive. But again, no one from Parks and Rec or engineering has looked at that to say it's possible or not possible. But
It looks quite steep.
there's not a lot of land to work with in that 50-foot segment either.
You'd have to be able to meet ADA requirements for the steepness of the trail. If you had.
I mean, I'm not going to say yes or no to that. Recreational trails are not the same as other paths of travel.
I guess if it was owned by the homeowners association, that might be different too.
But the easement between lot 31 and 32 is just for stormwater, correct?
Sanitary sewer.
Sanitary.
Yeah, so it's a 30-foot clear area so that we have ability, if we had to do maintenance on the line, that we can get equipment in. So it'll be 15 feet clear on each property's side of that property line. So it's a 30-foot clear area centered on that property line.
But it's will belong to the homeowners.
The land area will be the owners. There will be an easement that says it can't be obstructed, covered. We have to have the ability to access the sanitary sewer line.
Where would it attach to Utah?
Say that again.
Where might this trail attach over to Utah?
I don't know if you can, is there any more detail to the east? So again, as the speaker said, you would have to cross the creek. And then there's multiple places that the city has rights of way along the creek. So there's one just at the very south end of that Utah Drive that comes up. And then further to the north, there's other places that the city could have a trail as well.
Oh, okay.
So there's the east side of the creek isn't, from a legal ability to have access to something, the east side of the creek is covered. The physical ability to build the trail, I don't know about, but yeah, we do have access rights. It's the west side that there's no access proposed at this time.
Because at this time it's county land.
I mean, part of that, but also this subdivision isn't planned as the speaker said, it isn't planned to even enable it to happen.
Okay.
So again, that piece that's in the county someday will be in the city.
Right.
I wonder if we approve this tonight, if we could, I'm looking at the way alternative 1 is written, and under 1B, we're talking about the sidewalk connection within this development, access to the park. Could we throw something in there to also have city staff consider what the public comment was and what feasibility would be for that in the future? Or is that not in the purview of what we're being asked to review?
I mean, it's within the purview because it's a comment about the lot layout and access points. So if you're saying, can you recommend alternative 1 and also request that city staff review the ability for a trail or access to the east to connect to Utah Drive and report to council? Yeah, I don't think there's a lot of effort on staff's part to look at that. I mean, we're not going to design a trail, but we can look at what
General
it means.
feasibility.
And I just, sorry, I was caught off a little off guard about that. I know we had talked about the city's trail plan months ago when we were doing the sewer connection. I just do not recall right now what the city has in its mind for trails related to Clear Lake. And again, the parkland is just so fresh as a concept. There's no layout, there's no long-term plan yet for it. It's really just an opportunity to acquire land that hasn't all been figured out.
Gotcha.
Do we have any more questions or comments for staff or the applicant?
I don't think so.
Would anyone like to make a motion?
I can make a motion. I recommend that we recommend to City Council to approve alternative 1. Approve the preliminary plat for North Sunset Ridge subdivision located at 798 North 500th Avenue with the following conditions. A, final approval of the SWMP by the Public Works Department prior to City Council approval of the preliminary plat. B, the exact location of the sidewalk connection north to the future park is still to be determined. If the sidewalk is not able to connect to the park, then it will need to extend through Outlot C to the west and connect with the Wilder Avenue sidewalk trail. C, accommodation and coordination of street trees with final improvement plans related to streetlights, fire hydrants, and single-family attached unit driveways will be required at the time of final plat. And adding an additional item that city staff consider the feasibility of a trail connection from the east up to this area with the intent to get to the park, if that is clear. So.
Is that clear enough for you, Kelly? That
Yep.
motion? Okay.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, everyone. And that was our agenda item. So move on to commission comments. Anyone have any comments?
Anything for next time?
Yeah, I think we pass out an agenda.
That was an agenda there.
So I believe we'll have at least 2 items for your next meeting.
Ooh.
Any staff comments?
I do not.
Okay. We have a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Okay.
Aye.
We're adjourned.